Hey everybody, it's Clint with Custom 3D Specialties. Today we're going to finish the install of the Sovol magnetic build plate on the Anycubic Mono X. When I left off, we had to leave it sit for 3 days in order for the magnet to adhere properly to the build plate. So we're going to take the old one off. Put this to the side for now. So you would take these 4 screws off. I hope you printed out your spacer. You can go on Sovol.com and they will supply a file that you can use to print the exact size spacer needed. I also will show you a trick that I did with my Mono X and any other build platform with this similar design. It's kind of a design flaw that I have noticed. So you can see when I take this off, I have 2 things there, which are cards, just normal playing cards that I cut down to match exactly and put holes in. So what this does is you can see how tight that is to get on there. It makes it so that there's not really a lot of play this way. Now if I take those off, and yes, I have washed this all in alcohol already. Now you can see what happens. You can see how much play that is from side to side. So when you go to tighten this, when you're leveling, it can kick one side or the other up because this is trying to squeeze in. So I just made some little shims and they work wonderful. So now we will take these 4 screws out. These don't seem to be any different, but I'm going to keep them separate anyway, just because these are exposed to resin. I did put this in my ultrasonic cleaner. You can see there's no resin, no nothing underneath it here. Okay, so this is the old plate, platform, build plate. Now we're going to grab the new one with the magnet, or if you only have one, make sure, like I mentioned in the previous video, that your platform is flat. I will do another video on that using this platform. So then we will re-put this back on using the same screws. This platform has been sanded down already. I also did do the top of it because you get the resin that collects here. This hopefully should just let the resin run right off. I have not tested it yet. This will be the first test with the magnetic plate. And you want to make sure these are tight, but you don't want to over tighten them and strip your screws. Make sure you have no debris. Okay, tight, 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 tight. Now I will put my cards back. Just put that right like that. Right like that. Just put this over. See? I mean, that's a substantial amount of play that can cause bed leveling issues. And for a lot of beginners, that is one of the hardest things to deal with, is leveling your platform. So now we'll put these screws back in. The cards may be a little off, so you just may have to wiggle it to get it in there. Now a normal playing card was what I had on hand, and you know, that fit the amount of gap that I had between my two uprights of my build platform. Now we'll tighten these up. You don't need to go tight because you still need the level. So what you want to do is you want to loosen or tighten it up just to where it's tight, but you can still move it. See, now that's too tight, I can't move it down. Okay. That's too tight, can't move it down. So what this does is this takes out any extra twisting or turning. Like when your bolts are like this, you got a lot of twisting to do. When they're already snug, like here, you have very minimal twisting you have to do to tighten it, which is less force and movement up here, resulting in a better platform level. And the same thing. Okay, and we will do the last one. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to push it all the way down, which means this is going to be all the way up to the top. Do not forget to put your plate on, or your flex plate. Now there are two sides to this. There is a smooth side, and then there is a side with lines, which adds a little bit of textured groove. You're going to want this side facing down to your FEP, and you want to make sure to put the tabs to the front of your build plate / platform. Kind of line it up, push it in place. Make sure you're not hanging over more than just the tabs. Before we put that on, we will we need to put our spacer down here. So underneath on the right side, you're going to see a little arm that comes down, held on by two little bolts. Find your appropriate Allen. Wrench and unscrew. Now, these small ones will work when you add your spacer, but you're not going to have a lot of thread stuck in there, so don't over tighten them or you will strip it. As for me, I personally have some extra ones laying around because if you have 3D printers, you usually have 3D printing parts. So I'm going to use some longer ones. So how this is going to go on is you're going to take your metal bracket, you're going to take your screw, put it in, just like as if it came off. Then you'll take your spacer and put that on top of your bracket, and it's going to go between your printing arm, or your platform arm. Make sure this goes straight in and not to be on the other, to go crooked on this side. You want to be straight to the back of here. Okay, I'll take my other screw. Put that one in. So now you want to make sure that it is not touching the back wall and it is not crooked, because it has to go between the sensor down here on the bottom. So you want to make sure it's straight as possible. And what I do is I just grab it, give it a little pull, straight back, and then tighten up the screws. Give it a double check, make sure that it looks like it's going to go between the center of your sensor. You do not want to break your sensor. a little too much. That looks good. All right. And there we go. The plate has been installed with the spacer. You want to grab your piece of paper. Turn it on. Go to Tools. Go to Move Z. Go to Home. Remember, make sure your plate is movable. So now, I will push on all four corners, just rocking back and forth from right to left and front to back. And then I will space my hand out like this. Start in the right front. Tighten a little bit. Go to the left back. Tighten a little bit. Meanwhile, keeping constant pressure, levelly. Then I will go to the right back. Then I will go to the left front. Now I will just give them all a little snug, going in reverse order. So if I was just here, I will go back here. Then I will go here again. So I want to go to the right. Now I will go across to here. Now I will go to the back left. So I can still slide my paper out. And back in. So that means I'm still a little high. So loosen them back up. Make sure your paper is all the way underneath. And we will do this again. Push down, making sure it's flat. Applying pressure. Right front. Back left. Back right. Left front. Then we'll tighten the rest of the way up. Okay. Now that's better. See, that does not want to move. On any corner. I would call that a good level. So now we can hit Z equals 0, and we can hit enter. And we will hit enter. And now I'm just going to try and run a file real quick and just double check. So we'll go print. So this should come down. And that is beautiful. Released. Now this next one, this should be stay loose. See, now I can move it. And there we go. We have now installed the magnetic plate. Let it sit for 3 days, 72 hours. I did add mine in the sun, A, prior to installing it, and B, after installing the magnet. We have installed it on the bracket again, and we have re-leveled with our spacer, and we should be ready to print. Let's make sure there's nothing on my screen here. I just gotta hurry up because the window's open behind me. We don't need resin curing in the vat. There we go, I feel better. Okay, so let's do our first test print. So we want to watch it, make sure that it goes in and clears. And there we go. And this will be done in 21 minutes. So in the meantime, I hope you guys like my channel. Subscribe, give the video a thumbs up. Stay tuned. Definitely got some more interesting stuff coming. Not necessarily 3D printing related, but you can use 3D printing in it to help. Well, you'll just have to watch and find out. So now I should be on layer 2. I'm gonna listen for the pop. Layer 3, I'm still on my bases. So I'm gonna pause it on this layer. I do this with all my prints. This way I make sure that I have adhesion on my plate even before I'm onto the model. And I do. So we are good to go. I will continue. I don't see any corners peeling off. I feel safe now letting this run and not worrying about a print that may fail at this point. Now, a print still may fail due to suction, due to not enough base layers for adhesion. Also could fail at supports, that your support tips are not thick enough or penetrating enough. So it is very important that you run a type file that I am running now, which is a resin exposure test or resin exposure finder. This one on the left here is going to be the RX2, the resin exposure 2 test, and this one on the right is a new one that Frozen just came out with. This is their version, so I figured I would give it a try and see how it compares with the RX2 file. And we have 19 minutes left and we're on layer 6. Okay, we are at 100%. Let's see what we got here. I'm gonna close this shade behind me. Try and keep some of the sun out. Okay. Well, we got a little pooling up on top, but not bad. That's on me. So, grab my gloves. Put the hanger on. So we're going to go enter, tools, move Z, 10 millimeters, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Always hit this part. Okay. Well, looks like one of them did come off. But that just looks like an adhesion issue because there is a lot of it printed. This was some old resin. I didn't mix it up that much either. So we'll grab our alcohol. Another plate drip just a little bit. We should just be able to grab the tab. Pull it off. We have our test print. The other one is in the bottom. And we just flex. And there it is. Let this extra resin drip back in the plate. Give this a little wash. And as you can see, that first one was cloudy, but it is there. See if we can get the other one out of there. Oopsie. So yes, it was there. This is just a much thicker print with a lot more exposure surface. So the suction, along with the old resin and not mixing it that well, it did not stick to the magnetic plate. So if this does happen to where some extra, you get a lot of suction force, you can clean your plate off real good with alcohol and scuff it up with some sandpaper, and that will solve the issue of it not being able to bite to the surface. Well, I hope you enjoyed. Bye everybody. Thank you. Again, this was a Sovol Flex plate. Install, bed level, and test print with the Anycubic Mono X. Okay, I'm back. So I did grab some sandpaper, and I'll just walk you through what to do with that real quick. I just didn't want to leave you hanging. So, take your plate back off. Make sure it's clean. Give it a nice alcohol bath. I would prefer putting this in my ultrasonic cleaner, but that is in the other room. And I have this here right now. So we will just give this a good bath. See, now you can see the one side that's smooth and the one side that does have texture lines to it. So I want to dry this off. Not grab another rag. That's right. This one's almost got it all. I'll take these out of here. So then on a flat surface, because you don't want to bend your plate, you're just going to want to take just a little piece of sandpaper and just go in some circular motions. You're not trying to sand away anything. You want to leave it as flat as possible. And you can put a little crosshatch in there. You know, but get the whole flex plate. Try to do it as even as possible. And this will also help sand down any burrs or anything on the edges. Kind of feel them edges are a little sharp. So there. Now you can see that I added a little scuff surface there. Looks like I need a little more down in the bottom down here. That way you're just giving it a little more to bite to. Normally, using your steel spatula, you would end up putting a couple little grooves in the bottom of your other platform. I do not have that one here anymore. And that would help, but the flex plate, you're not going to be using that anymore. So, you got to add a couple little scuffs. Alright. And then you want to wash it with alcohol. Make sure to get all that metal dust off, because you don't want that in your resin. And then again, this is where I would put it back in the ultrasonic cleaner and just wash it for a couple seconds, maybe a minute. The ultrasonic cleaner, that really does the trick. I like that a lot better than the wash and cure stations, just for the simple fact of when your model is filled with your cleaning solution, right? The normal wash and cure stations are just a swirl, so it kind of pulls water in and out. But an ultrasonic cleaner, all the water's jiggling. So it doesn't matter if it's on the outside or on the inside, it's all jiggling. Which means it's cleaning. Which means it's getting the resin out of the inside of your model. You do have to be careful with ultrasonic cleaners. Do not leave them run for a long period of time. Make sure you turn them off and unplug when not in use. And do not use alcohol and turn the heaters on. Okay, so that is pretty clean. Now we will just pull our magnet off here, and we will just wipe this down, so we don't want any resin between the magnet and the platform or the flex plate. That can cause adhesion issues between the magnet and the flex plate, causing the flex plate to pull off, resulting in a failed print. So here again, line it up. Push it into place. And there we go. We are ready for our next print. Alright, thank you. Bye guys.